Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Jim Ryan, and together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we are headed down Interstate 5, almost all the way to the California border, where we're pulling off the highway to stop at the busiest state park in Oregon. Though, Jamie, you wouldn't necessarily guess that.
Yeah, Jim, as we've talked about on previous episodes, the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department puts out data every year that shows the visitor numbers for each of its state park sites. And every year, almost without fail, that data shows that the number one most visited Oregon State Park site is Valley of the Rogue State Park in Southern Oregon. Jim, have you been to Valley of the Rogue? What do you know about Valley of the Rogue?
That question's a little bit ruined because you and I have talked about Valley of the Rogue just like 2 weeks
Sure.
ago. But I have an admission to make right at the start of the show, actually, which is I was just driving down Interstate 5 in mid-March. I was beelining it, a buddy and I, trying to make it to Lake Tahoe for a ski trip. I was pulling by and I flagged for my friend. I'm like, hey, that is Valley of the Rogue State Park. That is the busiest state park in Oregon, if I remember correctly. And we're just like, it looks like there's some cool stuff back there. But because we were like on a mission trying to, do a long drive, we did not stop. Didn't even stop to take a picture, unfortunately. I'm quite excited actually to learn more about what it is I missed.
Yeah, it's one of these parks. It's not Silver Falls. It's not Smith Rock. It's not sort of the typical big name state park sites in Oregon that most people think of. They think of like the biggest, the busiest state parks. But Valley of the Rogue is in fact the busiest and has a lot more to offer than people might first assume when they pull off there at the rest stop off of I-5. So today we're going to talk all about Valley of the Rogue, and to help introduce it a little bit more to us, we have with us Nathan Seable, who is the Oregon State Parks Manager for the Rogue Management Unit, which includes Valley of the Rogue. Why don't we get started here just by telling folks who don't know anything about Valley of the Rogue, where is this park and what does it look like?
It's basically located right on I-5 in between Gold Hill, the towns of Gold Hill and Rogue River. So it's very convenient to the highway. And we have about 165 sites and offer year-round camping. And 95 of those sites are full hookup sites, meaning they have water, power, sewer. And then 55 of them have electric and water. And there's tent sites and then yurt sites. There's actually 8 yurt sites, but for 2023 season, we plan on having an additional 7. So we're adding yurts because people love those. But it's about 250 acres. Has beautiful views of the mountains. It's right along the Rogue River, and has plenty of space and trails for people to get out and enjoy. It's just a beautiful spot.
Yeah, if you look at on the map at Valley of the Rogue, it's kind of like this thin strip of land that's nestled right between I-5 and the Rogue River. It's like this little strip of green right there, that kind of, or a little finger of state park that goes between those two areas. So it's really interesting. It's not like this huge sprawling area necessarily, but a lot is packed into that little strip of land.
Exactly. It's sandwiched right in between the river and the highway. And it is long and narrow. In fact, I think from one end to the other, it's about 3.5 miles or so, which is convenient for the folks that live in the city of Rogue River, because the Greenway Trail that runs right through the park and then goes down to Gold Hill, and then there's a small gap, and then it picks up again in Central Point and then goes all the way to Ashland. They can walk from their homes under the big bridge there at Rogue River and get on the Greenway Trail and have a nice walk along the park there. So when you're out in it, it doesn't feel so small because you can see the hills around and you see the river. But yeah, it is in fact a narrow, long stretch of land right along the highway.
It's this kind of fun dynamic, Nathan, between this like beautiful and busy state park area, but also kind of this, rest stop, basically, folks pulling off the side of the road. Yeah. What do you folks do to kind of say, hey, like, look beyond, like, go, handle what you need to handle and take a stroll? Do you have signs up? Do you have a ranger out there saying, guys, gals, get out of the car, go, go, go?
Yeah, well, the great thing about Valley of the Rogue is its location. So convenient to the highway for travelers that are just stopping for a rest, want to take their dog for a walk, but also for overnight campers. So if someone does a little bit of research, they'll see that it's perfectly situated for a lot of day excursions. So we're close to, of course, on the river, you can do rafting, kayaking, fishing, but we're only a day's trip away, about an hour and 45 minutes to Crater Lake National Park, and a couple hours to the Oregon coast and the Oregon Caves National Monument. And then, of course, locally, some of the local culture, which is really fun, is, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival that occurs in Ashland, and the Brit Music Festival that's in Jacksonville. And then there's a couple of, jet boat companies by Grants Pass and also up by Central Point that, offer jet boat rides. So there's just a ton of local Southern Oregon attractions that are within driving distance. And Valley of the Rogue's right in the middle of it. If someone does a little research, they'll see it's definitely a place to stop. But if you're just traveling along the highway, there are highway signs that show that it's also a rest area where you can get out and use the bathroom, stretch your legs. We have a dog off leash park where people can let their dogs run, and they can get down to the river and enjoy the river and refresh themselves before they head up the highway or down the highway, whichever way they're going. But so we do have signs that tell people about what we have. And of course, when the rangers are out working, they are trained and more than happy to engage with people if they have questions and try to answer any questions they have and direct them. So we just do everything we can to try to engage with the public and let them know all the great things they can enjoy if they stop.
It sounds like this perfect blend where when I'm traveling down I-5 or on a long, I was, like I said, just driving down to Lake Tahoe. It was a 10-hour-ish, give or take drive. We're thinking, man, we just want something to get out the car and stretch the legs for like a half an hour. And this seems like a perfect place to do that, but also stay a while. And I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about the camping experience as well, which you alluded to a little bit earlier in the show here.
So we offer all kinds of camping opportunities, from yurts to full hookup sites to tent sites. We even have a group camp area where we allow up to 25 people per group. And so sometimes we get families or even church groups that may, if they want to put out 8 tents or 10 tents, and they can do that too. So we offer a little bit of everything. And, you mentioned traveling the highway. So one of the things that makes this park and the rest day use area so busy is the fact that whether you're traveling north, south on the highway, you have access to it. So a lot of rest areas, if you'll notice along I-5, if you're traveling south, that's the only way to get to it. Or if you're traveling north, that's the only way to get to it. But Valley of the Rogue, you can get to it. Doesn't matter what direction you're driving on the highway. So it's very convenient from that perspective too. But it offers a lot. It offers amenities for any type of camper.
Yeah, we're looking at the data from the Oregon State Parks Department. Valley of the Rogues campground is one of the busiest state park campgrounds in the state. And it looks like last year it was the busiest state park campground that was not on the Oregon coast. So lots of people are coming through, clearly.
So I've got some statistics to share with you on that. And it's grown over the years, and the use has gone way up, which I think we've probably seen everywhere. But to give an example, so Valley of the Rogue overnight camping. In 2012, it was 77,000 visitors. And in 2021, it was 126,000 visitors. And then when you go over to the day use side, in 2012, Valley of the Rogue had 1.6 million visitors. And in 2021, it had 2.1 million visitors. So you can see in that time period the growth that's occurred. And, every year we'll get a little dip or a little raise. And depending on the circumstances, like, for example, during the COVID shutdown, obviously use numbers went down for the camping and even for the day use. But then as COVID loosened up, it was like the dam broke and people wanted to be outside and doing outdoor things. Mm-hmm. And so it got extremely busy. But something interesting too, I was going to point out that so the statewide statistics are 50 for 2021 are 53 million day use users and 3 million overnight users. So the percentage of overnight to day use is about 5.6. And for Valley of the Rogue specifically, even though we have the rest area that is so convenient getting off the highway, with 2.1 million rest area visitors and 126,000 campers, that ratio of campers to day users is about 5 to 6% as well. So interestingly enough, Valley of the Rogue is pretty close to the statewide average for parks as in regards to the percentage of overnight campers to day users.
I think what interests me so much about this state park in particular is the fact that you do have so many people coming through, and yet there's also this feeling of wow, Valley of the Rogue is so overlooked. People don't really know what they're missing. To me, it seems like when you're talking about what people are missing, you've got, as you've talked about, sort of these two main focuses, that the Rogue River itself and that Greenway Trail, which is like a paved bike path that runs for a very long time. When it comes to the Rogue River, which seems to be sort of the main attraction of the state park, natural-wise, what can you tell us about how people can enjoy the Rogue River? What kinds of things they can do if they want to spend some more time at the park?
Oh, yeah. So our rest area and throughout the whole park, there are access points to the river, but we also have a boat launch. And so that's part of that rest day use area. We got a boat launch there. And for those who know about it, it's a great family friendly drift. If they want to just go on inflatable rafts or canoes or kayaks, you could put in at our boat launch and then float down the river a couple hours and take out there by the Rogue River Bridge. And there's a park there with a boat launch that you could go in and take out. So it's just a perfect little, half day excursion for a family or people who just want to enjoy the river. Of course, you want to check with the yearly conditions and the seasonal conditions before you play in any bodies of water. But in the summertime, when the conditions are good and the water levels are low, it is a very gentle drift. And there's a few riffles to keep it interesting. So that's one thing. And it gets hot in Southern Oregon. Anybody who's lives here or camps down here knows that we get some very, very hot days. And so having that Rogue River close by is a real great attraction for people. Of course, there's fishing to enjoy the river, and then wildlife viewing. So so in addition to the paved Greenway Trail that we've been talking about, we also have just a dirt single track hiking trail, no bikes, no motorized vehicles, that is actually in between the river and the paved greenway. And when you walk through there, it's quieter, you're closer to the river, and you can do some wildlife viewing. We have beaver activity, you see deer. On occasion, somebody has spotted coyote, even, and all kinds of birds. So there's just, for people who love the outdoors and nature and wildlife, it really is a great convenient stop right off the highway. That, like you mentioned before, even though we do have a lot of visitors, there's far more people that just drive by and don't know about it. And I don't know what the statistics are and how many vehicles pass us. That's something I'd be interested to look up. But more pass by than they do stop. But I think if more people knew what they were driving by, they would definitely take the opportunity.
Well, guess what? That's what we're here for, and you're here for as well. So that is good stuff. I'm curious, Nathan, you've described a lot of natural beauty. I could go for one of those floats like on the next hot day. That sounds fantastic, though maybe the river is a little bit fast right now for a float. But anyhow, what's the grand vision for this place? It sounds like it has so much to offer.
It does. Our vision is to, of course, keep it a safe and sanitary place for all users to enjoy. To make it an inclusive place where people of all diverse backgrounds feel comfortable coming and enjoying the outdoors, being able to unwind from the normal stresses of life. And we would like to increase and improve our interpretive programs. So there are a lot of parks that are considered destination parks because they might be on a lake, or they might have some specific feature that people want to see, whether it's historic or natural. Like you could think of Fort Stevens, on the coast, Fort Rock or Smith Rocks. We haven't technically been considered a destination park because we're not necessarily on a lake, even though we're on a river. So we want to make it feel more like a destination park, a place where even if you live locally, that you think, hey, if we go there on the weekend in the summer, there's going to be neat programs for the kids where they can learn about natural history, and they can learn about Native American history and settlement history, and also learn more about good outdoor ethic. That's kind of our vision. Is we just want to make it feel and look more like a destination park of interest. So some of the things that we've done just in the last couple of years to try to facilitate that is we've done things like place historic wagons and equipment out in the day use rest area and also in the park, so that people could go look at this historic farming implements and wagons and things like that as a point of interest. We're also actually talking to a wood carver, a Native American wood carver, actually from Southern Oregon, and looking to turn some of the hazard trees that we've had to take down, but we still have great lumber in them, to turn them into works of art that people can enjoy and kind of give an opportunity to look at it and maybe raise some questions, or people can use their imagination and think about the history and natural history of the place. So those are some of the things we're aiming at. We just want to make it feel and look more like a destination, a place of interest, somewhere where people really feel like there's a reason to go there.
I love that. Lots of reasons to go there, and the programs and the things for family focus really, help the locals be like, hey, let's go run down to Valley of the Rogue, and we want to go there because there's the wood carving guy here today, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And even little things like movie nights, setting up the big, blow up screen and showing family friendly movies and that sort of thing. Just things like that. Yep.
100%. So want to talk to you some more about Valley of the Rogue State Park here, Nathan. But first, let's take a short break. All right, folks, we are back with Nathan Seable from Valley of the Rogue State Park in Southern Oregon. And Nathan, we've talked all about the park, its features, what brings people to it. But you and Jamie had already talked, and Jamie said you have some pretty great stories about maybe some kind of crazy stuff going on here at Valley of the Rogue.
Yeah, well, in this business, we're working with the public and we meet thousands of people. And when you're here every day and working, you often see things that a visitor wouldn't see if they're just traveling through for a short period of time. So we see all kinds of things. One thing I could remember, a couple of things. It seems like we're a place to collect animals and protect livestock. So one time we had some folks stop with their horses, and they wanted to stretch their legs and let the horses get out. And one of the horses got away. And so I actually have a horse background. And one of the rangers called me and said what was going on. And immediately I panicked because the worst nightmare is the horse runs down the road or gets on the highway and causes an accident. So I quickly made it back to the park and I helped to catch the horse, and we loaded it up. And I asked her very politely but firmly, please don't ever let your horses out here again. So totally unexpected. But, when you sign up to do a ranger job at Oregon State Parks, you don't expect you're going to be wrangling horses. We've had abandoned chickens and roosters Yeah, one time in the rest area in the women's side of the bathroom, there was a rooster in there. In effect, he had a little bowl of food and a little bowl of water. So
What?
somebody set him up pretty good, and was hoping he'd probably be adopted. So we see some interesting things.
I mean, you shouldn't leave your rooster in the bathroom.
No.
You shouldn't let your horse out at the rest area. Those are, the horse thing. That is a lesson you only want to learn once. An experience as
Yeah.
as a parks employee, you only want to experience once. Jamie, jog my memory. You had one more good one you had told me about that absolutely cracked me up.
Well, I remember, Nathan, you telling me about the fact that it's right off the highway and that it is a rest stop means that you sometimes get big trucks going the wrong way.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
That is an issue. So when people are southbound and they take the exit, when they get off on the exit, they have an option. If you go right, you go past the booth, you go past the campground entry sign and past the booth, and you're in the campground. If you go left, you're in the rest area. And we do have room for CDL drivers with their, mandatory stops, which is great. But it just seems like all too often, somehow, no matter how many signs we put up or what we have painted on the pavement with big arrows saying campground this way and rest area that way, we end up with a semi truck once in a while. And one time we got a frantic phone call from the hosts that were in the A loop, and that's where the yurts are. So the truck had gone into the campground and then realized the error of their ways and took a left into the A loop to try to turn around and go back out, and quickly found out it was so tight, there was no way they were going to make it. And in the middle of the loop, the driveway goes around in a circle and loops back. And in the middle of it are a couple of sheds that are a wood shed and a tool shed that the hosts use. And it was pretty clear that they had maneuvered around trying to make the turn. And then finally, they just lost patience and said, forget it. And they went ahead and plowed through one of our sheds.
Oh, no.
And just flattened the thing. And they escaped. And we had a frantic host call us up. It was I think it was 1:30 in the morning, maybe 2 a.m. We just had a truck smash through a shed. So that was, you never cease to be amazed what you experience here. In managing a public place that's open 24/7.
Well, all those crazy stories aside, Valley of the Rogue is a great spot to stop off and stretch your legs or go, float down the river or go fishing or camp overnight. I was down there just earlier at the tail end of this winter and can attest to the natural beauty of that spot. So, folks, go check it out. Nathan, thank you so much for coming on today and telling us all about it.
Absolutely. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, Jamie, I think the upshot of this whole show, does it have to do with horses or chickens? I don't know. Which one? What do you think?
I think it has to do with a beautiful state park that you gotta stop at. I know, Jim, that you were talking at the top of the show about how you didn't stop there. Maybe wish you had.
Yep.
And I like you said, it's just such a perfect spot to pull off if you need a rest area. It's a great rest area. I mean, there's a lot of rest areas along I-5, but not all of them come with great river access and greenway trails and full campgrounds and everything else. So Valley of the Rogue in that way is a really special spot.
A really special spot. And Jamie, I mean, I said this during the show, but I don't know how many times you're on a longer drive and you're just like, I don't want to do a full day activity or even a half day activity. I just want to go on a walk. Get out of the car. You're listening to Peak Northwest on on your drive, or you're listening. That's a shameless plug. You're talking. You've got your conversation. You've got your music, whatever it might be, and you just want to stop off and move for a second. And I haven't been to this place. I clearly just passed it up, but I love the idea of both being able to do the quick stop just to walk for a half mile, a mile, whatever, or stay the night. It sounds like a great place to stay, and lots of opportunities around there. The bike path sounds great. The river, I mean, what's not to love about the Rogue? Jamie, I mean, it sounds like it's got it all.
Yeah, I love the idea of doing a float from Valley of the Rogue down to the bridge. And maybe if you leave your bikes there at that other park, bike back.
Yep.
That's such a cool adventure you could do right there. That's just one of different, a bunch of different ways you can have fun and enjoy this really busy but also overlooked state park site.
Yep. I love that. And I was kicking myself a little bit on the way down because I'm like, I know that place is cool. Jamie just told me about it. We were trying to move fast. It was not it was like you're going to get in the overnight hours to where you're going kind of thing. There was no desire to stop and rest for a while. But Jamie, if and when I'm buzzing past Valley of the Rogue State Park, I vow to stop and at least take a rest there next time.
There you go, Jim. Stretch your legs, check out the river, and enjoy a place that otherwise you would just drive right on by.
You've got that right, Jamie. Well, until next time here on the show, folks, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at Peak Northwest, and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel. Please leave us a rating or a review if you enjoy the show. And if you want to support this podcast and our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details, of course, at OregonLive.com/pod support. This episode of the show was produced by me, Jim Ryan, alongside Jamie Hale and Andrew Thien.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.